Well, hello there, Planeswalkers. Welcome back to another episode of the Hive Mind. My name is Jon Dunning. This is the show where I traverse the multiverse in search of other prominent members of the Magic the Gathering community. And before we reveal who is traversing today from across the pond, I want you to head on over to cardsphere.com. That's right, cardsphere.com is simply the best place to buy, sell, and trade your paper Magic the Gathering cards online. While you're out traversing, head on over to inkedgaming.com, enter promo code HiveMindMTG to receive 10% off your purchase of custom playmats, dice bags, or whatever else tickles your fancy in the multiverse. But without further ado, planeswalking in from Bath, England, the most interesting Connor from the UK, and that is Connor Macleod, aka Standup Poet, aka Spice 8 Rack. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to continue this wonderful journey you and I are going on with the show thus far.
Absolutely. It's gone on without a hitch too, right? Like we
Oh, absolutely. Like, this is our first take.
Yeah. There might be a blooper reel for this, but whether there is or not, we'll move on. But this is not a dry show. It is a little bit. The expression is it's 5 o'clock somewhere, but I believe it's more like 7 or 8 where you are. It's not quite close to 5 o'clock in the States, but you have a special guest joining you tonight through this.
Indeed. I've got myself a local brew. I mean, I keep saying it's local. It's Oxfordshire, which is, I actually have no idea how local that is. England's small enough. But it is King Goblin, a hobgoblin variant, I guess. And it is apparently only ever brewed under a full lunar moon with crystal malt and sovereign hops for a rich, smooth, sublimely satisfying taste. And it's a dark ale, which I am not normally a party to, but I am a massive fan of hobgoblin. So I thought I'd give it a go. And it is absolutely lovely, to be honest.
Excellent. Absolutely. I am joined today by the Hop Valley. This one's from Oregon. I live in Washington, but Oregon makes fantastic beers as well. This is a Divine Shine hybrid ale. It's kind of the mix of a Hefeweizen and a pale ale, so it's a little bit hoppier than your standard wheat beer, but it's getting a little warmer up here in the Pacific Northwest, so I decided to bring it in with a cheerier beer than my usual darker fare. So, L'chaim, my friend.
Yaki da. Which is good health in Welsh.
Perfect.
Yaki da.
See, a hive mind first. Now we're speaking Welsh.
Fantastic. It's the only Welsh I know.
Connor, I just want to say, like, I usually try to keep my composure on these, talking to a lot more prominent members in the community than myself, of course, but I can't help but geek out. I just think you are putting out the top-notch stuff. It's so funny, it's so entertaining, and it's just exploded on to the scene and taken over the Magic the Gathering community. So first off, I want to say thank you, and second, just like I said, it's hard to keep my composure because I just think I'm just such a big fan of yours right now, and it's so much fun to talk to you.
That is super, super lovely of you to say, honestly. I've been watching Magic the Gathering content creators like yourself for many, many years before thinking even to start a channel. And so to be, actually standing shoulder to shoulder with some of you guys is genuinely a real privilege and an honor. So thank you so much for having me on your show. I feel very privileged being here.
Awesome. Well, all the niceties aside, you just came back from MagicFest. It's going to take me a while to not call them GPs, but MagicFest London. First off, was that your first kind of big event? And if you don't mind, just like a little field report.
Yeah, so it certainly was my first big event. My biggest event before that was I was in a Modern Masters 2 draft in a event called Nerd City in my local city of Bath, which was in the dance floor of our local Comedia, which is about I think it's like a 50 by 60 meter wide floor. So it's not very big at all. But that was the biggest event I've ever been to Magic the Gathering wise up until last weekend, which was just mental. I mean, it was like walking into an aircraft hangar full of nerds, which I didn't really know what to expect when I was turning up. It was very overwhelming the first day, especially seeing as I walked into like the wrong bit and walked into like the Pro Tour area and was just like, I certainly don't belong here. Like
Maybe one day. Who knows?
Security were like muscling up to me and going like, you can't film in here. It's like, oh, I'm really sorry. I just want to vlog. But I managed to find my way to the other room and had an absolute blast there. The people there were so warm and inviting and chill. The amount of people who, like me and I went with my best mate and my partner as well, and we were just like playing some games, and the amount of people who just came up, sat down next to us for a game of Commander and just got chatting, and it was just lovely. It was one of the most surprisingly chill events, Magic the Gathering wise, that I've ever been to, and I loved it. Genuinely, it was one of my favorite weekends of, like, certainly this year, probably of the last couple of years.
That's excellent. Did you get to kind of rub elbows with some of the other content creators there, like your Mana Sources, and I think Vince was there as well, right?
Yes, yeah. So I never got around to actually having a game with Vince. We kept like just missing each other. I think like at one point I was like doing this format called Commander Chase with a couple of fans of the channel, which was a lot of fun. I'll talk about that in a bit. But like at that point he was like, oh, let's get a game in. But I was doing that. And then when I was done with that, he was already drafting. And then I was in the middle of a chaos draft and he came up to me and went, oh, let's do one. It's like, oh, I'm doing it right now. Sorry. So one day me and Pleasant Kenobi will actually have a game. But aside from that, I met Jungle Fiver who 3D printed. In fact, I think I could like run and get it in a bit. But he 3D printed my logo. And a bunch of little like token versions of my logo, which was such a weird and cool thing to get. And I ended up handing them out to just like a couple of fans who came up and said hi. I'm trying to think of who else I bumped into. I met Abby from Masters of Magic, and that was lovely because we've been chatting for so long. I met Wedge, which was a really surreal moment because he'd seen my stuff, and I was like, well, I've been watching you since I started the game. So cool that you know who I am. That's weird. And I met Mark Rosewater. I met some wonderful people at Channel Farball. I didn't like have a big combo with Mark because he was obviously very busy. I just shook his hand and said cheers, which I felt was very sort of quintessentially British of me. So I had a lovely, lovely time, but I mainly spent it like hanging out with other people who were just at the event to have fun. And I was trying to have as much fun as I could whilst vlogging, which is stressful.
That is definitely my bucket list person to meet, I think. Well, I mean, I've been in the game for a little bit now, so I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of content creators and everything, and people that's worked at NWotC, but I just want to meet Mark Rosewater so much because early on in this channel's lifespan, I put out this horribly edited video about who my top 10 influences were for Magic the Gathering creation. And I always say that Mark Rosewater as a content creator is really the person that's influenced me to make a channel, listening to Drive to Work, and just him just being so madcap and just crazy and amazing and just responsible for so much greatness. I'm just such a huge fanboy of Mark Rosewater. So
he is a lovely, charming person. He really, really is. He's very humble and very like just when like in the event, certainly he was just very chill. It didn't feel like you were like expected to have a certain energy when you were hanging out with him. So that was just really lovely. And he just played some like games of Standard against a couple of people and was just chill. It was just like having a game against someone at your local LGS.
How cool is that?
I need to stop saying local LGS for God's sake. God damn it.
So how is like before we get into your Magic origin story, and I'm extremely interested in that, but how has Magic the Gathering as a whole affected your way in the largest way, in a positive way?
I think growing up in like secondary school in England, I've never been to another secondary school. Growing up in secondary school, I found it very difficult to like maintain a large group of friends. And I never really found my footing as to who I was until about, I'd say like probably end of my first year of university. So Magic for me was a way to spend time with like the small conclave of friends that I did have, and sort of generate more sort of people skills, generate a bit of rapport with people, which I'd sort of yet to do. And then from there, it allowed me a route to go to the nearest city, which was Bath, and meet people who were local to Bath, meet other friends, eventually develop a small little community out there in what was, to me, sort of this big, exciting city, because I lived out in the sticks, like about a 40-minute drive away from Bath in a little town. And from there... careful. From there, then like one of the first things I did when I joined university was join the Magic the Gathering Society, because there was one, and I knew it, and I met people through that, and so it's very much been a conduit for friendship for me. And also, as sort of the years went on, as I played the game more and I got more invested in the story, it eventually turned into a way for me to explore Ludo narrative, which has now become one of the biggest curiosities of my life, and something that I really want to pursue at the moment in an entertainment regard, but also in future, hopefully in an academic regard. So I'd say both of those two things are the two biggest things that Magic has actually given me: friendship and a pursuit to have. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just the friendship and the gathering aspect is such a resounding answer, and I think it's almost like I'm shocked when someone else is like, I just like stomping kids to the ground with Tron. You know, it's just like,
yeah.
But luckily that hasn't really happened. If it has, then cool. I think maybe Cat Light was the most like cutthroat about her answer, but she's no joke, right? But that is just my point. Is that is the thing that brings everyone together, that this game, that this, of cardboard and all this can bring so many people from so many different backgrounds together, talking from across the world like it is right now, is what makes this game the most special thing, way above, leagues and above any other game out there. So
no, I'd completely agree with that. I think the international aspect is a really important and especially sort of in LGS's potentially overlooked element of the game. The fact that, in a MagicFest, in an event that big, you've got people from England and America, but you've also got people I met someone from France, I met someone from Nepal, I met someone, I met someone from Luxembourg. And we just chatted and we played games, and it's very much like universal when you're playing Magic against someone. Even if you don't understand like where they're coming from in a cultural sense, or even in a language sense, you can play a game of Magic and kind of have a conversation through that and express yourself through your deck. And that's a big part of why I'm a huge fan of people not playing, big net decks and stuff like that, but the decks they want to play because it's their personality. So that's a huge aspect of the game for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just the last episode, I was talking to Ishton from Sweden, and that was just, I got to learn how great Moose is, and that I've been doing it all wrong eating cow my whole day. So, yeah, it's just incredible stuff. So, yeah, without further ado, let's hear your Magic origin story. You said that you kind of found it as a way, as a conduit for social skills, but how did you even discover the game in the first place?
So, I actually... it was a rediscovering when I first actually got into the game. So when I was first introduced to it, it was my parents bought me and my sister just like, I think it was probably like just 2 decks of Magic cards, because I'd been really into Yu-Gi-Oh! And in primary school, I traded like my entire collection away for one card, which I can't remember what it was called, and I lost in a week. Yeah, that was I remember I traded everything except for the one, I think it was like Elvish Healer, because I remembered my sister liked that one. So I kept that one and got this new card, and then lost both of them, and kind of swore myself off card games. But my parents bought, I think it was like 8th edition, because I have a distinct memory of enormous Baloth or Gargantuan Baloth and the Visadrix. Visadrix.
The rabbit.
The rabbit beast.
Like from Twilight Zone, the movie. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Isn't it fun? We do it a lot.
Yeah, you'll love it here, really.
Like it, you really, I promise.
No, I swear to you, you'll like
it. Go away.
And that was just like when I got back into the game after my friend Rowan just said like, hey, I'm thinking of getting into this card game, and I ended up looking it up, and suddenly I had this like battering ram of nostalgia just hit me. It's like, I've played this game, I recognize that forest, I know what a plains is, and eager cadet, I recognized the name of that, and then looked back and, oh yeah, that's the same art that I used to play with. So like rediscovering the game like that was very, very exciting. And yeah, I think it was me, Rowan, who was the camera operator in my Q&A, and also you'll see him whenever this comes out, you'll see him in the vlog that I filmed at MagicFest. And then a couple of other folks, another Connor, a guy called Robin, and Hamish. We all just got together, we threw our decks at one another. We all got into the game at Theros, so we all like picked our own like color to represent. I was mono black, Connor was red, Robin was blue, Rowan was red, Robin was, I can't even remember at this point, it was many years ago. But yeah, so that was kind of how I got into the game, and I've been a mono black player ever since, really.
Nice, my man. And what a good time to be a mono black player back in Theros with all the pack rats and all the devotion running around.
I wasn't pack rats. I wasn't devotion. I was mono black aggro.
Oh, well, okay.
I was jamming Tormented Hero and Gnarled Scarhide. Yeah. I had a playset of not Herald of Torment. I had a playset of that, but Master of the Feast.
Yeah,
I was knocking heads like that. I lost so many games.
That was the 3 for the 5/5 fat demon, right?
It absolutely was. They gave your opponent's card draw.
Oh, yeah, so good. Yeah, I miss Theros. Theros was a really underrated set. I think everyone kind of thumbs their nose at it because of I think like the dual lands might have been kind of undesirable with the Scry land, because that was before Scry went evergreen. So it's just like, these are but it was just, try to buy a god now on any of the at Cardsphere. It's just like, you're gonna pay at least $25. I think Athreos, which was being an Orzhov player, my favorite god of all time, I think that's up to like $30 now, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
No, absolutely. Like even ones that get reprinted, I'm pretty sure are still fetch you a reasonable price tag. Like what's the centaur god? The Boros one. Iroas, yes. I think Iroas is still, like, he's been reprinted a couple of times, but he's still fetching a reasonable price tag. People just love gods.
Yeah. I think the Minotaur, oh gosh, now I don't remember.
Oh, Mogus,
yeah. I think he's probably the cheapest because he's he was a little funky, but I mean, I just remember all the memes of him holding like an axe guitar and just like going like all the
I remember those, like absolutely remember those. Yes.
But Phoenix is like the only way to really do mill correctly in EDH. It was just, I don't know. We could go on and on about Theros, but coming off of Return to Ravnica, anything coming off of a Ravnica set has a lot to. It's a tough act to follow, because Ravnica is usually perfect magic. Wizards, puts all their eggs in the basket, but I thought Theros did a great job of that. So.
I feel like Theros got a bad rap because of the easy comparisons you could make to Kamigawa, in that it's gods versus mortals, and also Kamigawa came just before original Ravnica. Theros comes just after Return to Ravnica. So there are lots of parallels there, and people kind of maybe had a bad taste in their mouth from the last Gods versus Mortals set.
Sure.
And I think that's like certainly swung all the way around when we got to Amonkhet. I think people really, really liked the way that Mortals and Gods interacted within that plane. So hopefully that bodes well for a future return to Theros.
Yeah, I mean, hashtag where's Elspeth? Like, I need my Orzhov Elspeth already, damn it. So.
Oh, Orzhov Elspeth. Absolutely. Here for that.
Just give it to me. What is your favorite aspect of the game? Is it the art? Is it I think I know the answer, but is it the story? Is it the flavor, competitiveness? What really grabbed you at an early stage of playing? Just like, wow, this is different from anything else.
I think early on, it was imagining what was happening when you were casting a spell. Like, I wouldn't say like I wasn't like RPing. I wasn't going like, oh, well, I've got act of heroism, and look, he's just saved the child, or anything like that. I wasn't doing stuff like that, but like having those like little moments where you can sort of picture in your head this spellcaster, like, I don't know, I think it's like Viper's Kiss, and they like throw out their hand, and this magical enchantment asp just flies out and latches onto a creature and bites into it. Like the sort of fantasy that you can play out in your head whilst you're playing the game. I'd say actually at the start, the art was the thing that caught my attention, because so much of it was so evocative and so interesting, and like looking at art in a much more clear and sort of analytical mindset. At that point, you could see little details that potentially you missed when you were just throwing it across the table. And I remember my first foil was actually Goblin Grenade, which is potentially why I have such a love for the flavor text. But sort of at that moment, seeing the Magic was not just a game of vampires and Thragtusk. It was also this game where you could throw a goblin with a stick of dynamite in its mouth. That really caught me. I loved it. And so, when Unstable came around, I was just absolutely here for the Explosioneers. They are my favorite goblin of all time, hands down.
That's awesome. I've always had a huge affection for goblins. They're just so much fun to play with, especially. And you said Goblin Grenaders. That was like my origin story. I've kind of said it before, but I traded a skateboard deck for a trash bag full of Magic cards, and a lot of them were mixed in with like Fallen Empires and stuff like that. But I remember like seeing Goblin Grenade, and I'm like, this, even at like the ripe young age of 12, because I'm super old, but just thinking like, oh man, this just seems inherently powerful, like, and it just kind of stood out over like the other thing. So that just kind of grasped me, and it was a little confusing back then because Goblin Grenade, I think, had a couple different arts. I think Ron Spencer did one of them, and then kind of the most historical one, I would say, is the one that you featured prominently in your video, the poor goblin with his hands tied and the full mouthful of dynamite. But yeah, it's just I'm totally there. I totally get where you're coming from with goblins. I always try to jam them and make them work, and I always fail. It's always like that. It gets me. It's like, got me again. Goblin still isn't there.
You pranked me again, you bloody goblin. Next year we've got them.
The character style, right? They're the Magic the Gathering trolls. But
God, they are, aren't they?
They are.
Oh wow, they really are. Oh dang, I hadn't thought of them like that. Huh.
Yeah. What is your favorite format, and what's your favorite card of all time?
Our favorite format, hands down, is EDH. I think I got into it because I love the idea of sort of like having a deck where anything could happen. Like you pull a card off at the top of an 100 card stack, and it could be one of 100 things. So that was and still is my favorite format. Just because I've also never really been a fan of like decks that shut down other people, and so at least I understand that Pillow Fort and Stacks decks are very prevalent within the EDH format. However, that 100 card singleton deck just makes it a little bit more difficult for those decks to as reliably go off. Like I've never seen an ensnaring bridge or a lantern combo in EDH ever in my life, and I'm glad of that. Very, very glad of that. I've never seen like, was it Pixis of Pandemonium? I've never seen anything along those lines. So like I'd say EDH is probably my favorite format. And favorite card of all time, I genuinely don't know. I think it might be Thoughtseas.
Nice.
It was the first card that I looked at when I was first playing the game, and I kind of got like a vibe of this is what mono black is. It is doing something nasty, but sort of getting hit in response. Like when I used to play Hearthstone, I'd always play Warlock because the idea of like potentially not very good cards, but that also dealt damage to you. But, in certain scenarios, they were the best card to have in those situations. Like, that kind of stuff is always very exciting for me. So, like, Thoughtseize, it's just such a clean card. The art on the Theros print is astounding and is one of my favorite pieces of art in the entire game. I'd say, actually, that's probably my favorite card throughout the entire of Magic the Gathering. It just, from a pure clean-cut design standpoint, it is chef's kiss .png.
That's a very spiky card from an EDH enthusiast.
I tried running it in EDH when I first played the format and realized it is not very good.
The only way I could justify Thoughtseize in EDH is like Nath, the Golgari, what is it? Just card elf guy. That seemed to work okay, but it's still bad, right? Because it's still just like targeted. It's discard.
In Dual Commander, I imagine it's very, very good, but I tend to stay away from Dual Commander just because I prefer the politics of having multiple people to attack. Which it's another reason. Like, there's one thing I really don't like in Commander, and that's people choosing who to attack based on like a dice roll or a coin flip, or like if it's I'm gonna hit one of you with this. I can't even think of like what it would be. Like, one of you with this wit's end, I'm gonna roll a d6 to decide it. It's like no, don't rely on luck. Play politics, make enemies, make choices in this game. That's the one thing I really don't like about that kind of stuff. I love people like having like those little inter-game feuds and rivalries. That's why I love EDH so much.
Absolutely. And I'm right there with you. I think EDH, and for whatever reason, I'm a sucker for pain, and I like Modern almost as much or just as much. And my favorite Modern deck of all time is Super Bad. I love Naya Allies, but I love 8-Rack. And, when I saw your channel originally, that's what drew. I'm like, someone's making 8-Rack.
Boo, this has nothing to do with 8-Rack.
It's just in the name. You got me. You goblined me.
Goblin. I am the King Goblin.
Goblin King. Like Jareth, like David Bowie. I love Thoughtseize because of that. 8-Rack as a Modern deck is just something that just wins so nasty. And that's what I love about black as far as a color in Magic, because you can do anything that the other colors can, just at a price. Like, even back in the day in Mirage, it was like something boon, where it was a straight up counter spell, but you lost like 5 life for it. And I'm like, I want to be the thing that could do all the things at a price. So I totally get that.
No, I completely agree. And I think that's why when people get beaten by black rather than blue, people feel, even if they're, they've had their hands stripped down to nothing and they can't attack through an ensnaring bridge and they're just getting racked out, they still feel better than if they lose to like mono blue tempo. Because at least when you lose to like mono black, you feel like some evil sorcerer is like cackling as they destroy you. Whereas if you lose to mono blue tempo, it just feels like a smug wizard is like, you are not worthy of my time. Here, take my flippy 1/1. I can't remember what it's called. What's the flippy 1/1? You know the flippy 1/1.
No, it's just going to be called the flicky 1/1 now.
No, dang it. I know. Delver of Secrets. There we go.
I just forever now. I want an altar of the flippy 1/1.
The flippy 1/1.
No, but because I think with black, there's a real tension to the games, because it's just like, am I going to kill myself first before I kill them? And it's more earned than just sitting there and putting everything back in their hand, and it's just a miserable feeling. Not to say I don't love Dimir decks, because a good Dimir like mill deck is I'm at that party for sure. But,
I completely agree. But that's why I was running like 4 copies of Painseer in my mono black aggro deck, just because I loved it when I was at 3 life, and I can kill you next turn, but if this Painseer untaps, I may die. Like, those moments were what I lived for, and I got killed so often, and I loved it.
Absolutely. Let's shift over to you specifically, exploding onto the content creator scene, like I said at the top of the show. But what made you even want to start a YouTube channel, and why MTG lore?
I think there were a number of reasons why I wanted to start a channel. And they're also like slightly connected. I think the first small reason was I have a lot of friends over here. I'm not actually currently in Bath at the moment. I'm here in London. I'm doing some freelancing over here. But I've got a lot of friends over here in London who do YouTube, who have been doing it for many, many years. And when I was at university in Bath, I met one of them who had moved from London to Bath to study, and he brought me back, and I met all of his friends, and now they're very close friends of mine. And they all did YouTube, and so a part of me was like wanting to at least have something out there that I could talk about. You know, if someone's asking, "Oh, did you hear what YouTube did this week?" I could like go, "Did I?" And that would be it. So that was like
part of the conversation. Yeah.
I too have an opinion founded in reality. But apart from that, like the next step was coming out of like genuine fear that I wasn't going to do anything with my degree. I have a bachelor's in creative writing and a master's of research in transnational writing. And I don't really know what I did in my master's, but I got a distinction, so I'm not questioning it. Also, my master's is shut down. I was the last group that went through. It doesn't exist anymore, so I have like a really, really limited edition degree.
Somewhere there's a picture of you walking away and the whole thing exploding like a Michael Bay movie behind you.
That never happened.
Literally shut it down.
That's not those are allegations, and I will not have my good name sullied.
Yeah,
but no, so
a direct to your life. Yeah.
no. Please, good Lord, no. But I started worrying I wasn't going to do anything with my degree, wasn't going to be able to write anything or get a job where I could actually use my skills. So I thought I'd kill two birds with one stone and write essays on something that I was kind of interested in a comedy way that maybe in like 7 or 8 months time I could show off as like a editing show reel and get a job, you know, kind of actually doing what I'm doing at the moment, which is freelance editing. And so I never expected the channel to like go anywhere. I'm really interested in Magic's lore and particularly how that lore is represented on cards. And I didn't feel many people were talking about that on YouTube. So I thought maybe this is something that like I can add to the discourse. And the response after my Goblins video was genuinely like frightening. For like 2 weeks, I was really, really scared at how quickly things were going. I was not sure if it was like an elaborate prank or if I'd like accidentally like figured out the system. And this was all going to come crushing down in like 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. But like the response was so overwhelmingly positive. And I almost didn't put that video out because I wasn't happy with the audio quality. So I'm really glad that my mum convinced me to do it anyway. So yeah, like the success has been absolutely unprecedented and very humbling. And to, again, like as I said earlier, to have people like Wedge, President Kenobi, Abby, like say, I know who you are and I like your stuff it's weird. It's really, really bizarre. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, and like meeting people who have enjoyed the stuff and enjoyed the channel, as it's like it's just so lovely to meet people and for them to think you're cool and for you to think they're cool and then to play Magic. It's nice. It's great.
It's just there's a certain it factor, and like, you know, I've been around or just watching content more so than creating content, but you just can tell the certain people that get it. Just heuristic studies, you know, Sam is just one of them. You just kind of knew that was just going to blow up because it oozed that just character and creativeness. And then you have people like yourself and like Groucho Marco, who's just exploding onto the scene too.
I love Groucho Marco. I love him.
I do too. He is like, just every ounce of success that especially the three of you get coming your way is just so overly deserved, or like so deserved, because it's just different, and it's such a big sea. You know, a lot of content creators are just like, oh, it's so hard to do it, and it's this big sea of noise. It totally is. But when you put out that level of quality, whether it be comedy, writing, editing, anything, research, it just floats to the top, and that's how you do it. And it just, again, I just want to say thank you for just killing it lately.
Thank you for saying that, and for also giving me this platform, and for supporting me. Like, it's really, really cool to have. And it's bizarre. Like, I've never met you before in my entire life, and yet like we like each other's stuff, and like we're supportive of each other. That's super cool. I love that. I love that about Magic.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit more about the lore. You did a real-time, even though you said you weren't while you were doing it, you did a real-time novel review for War of the Spark. The novel was polarizing at best, I would say. But at least are you happy with the direction that WotC is taking with the storyline? And would you be excited to read another novel for whatever upcoming set or wherever direction that the storyline is going in?
I would be happy if this and the prequel novels that we're going to get whenever, like, WotC works out exactly the sort of, I think there's legal logistics going on with that. Sure. I would be happy if those are the last, like, compulsory Magic the Gathering novels that we ever see. I absolutely loved the story that they told through the cards. I felt that was incredibly succinct. I felt that each note that they hit was wonderfully done. I would have liked them to kill a couple of more people. No spoilers at the moment. I'll say spoilers if I'm about to do something. Just because I felt maybe would have added a little bit more to the tension of the story. But I felt that the story that was told on the card vastly outshone the narrative that was spun in the novel. And I think one of the detriments that the novel had was that it, by necessity, had to be compared to the cards. And the cards did such a good job that the novel just sort of, it felt a lot more like, a piece of fan fiction written after looking at all the cards and then forgetting about 6 of them. Like, I don't like. I understand, as someone who's done like a degree in creative writing and a big old master's, I understand how difficult it is to craft a piece of prose, especially with time constraints, especially when you've already got the story like nailed out in front of you and you can't really have much in the way of artistic license. But things like getting the timeline wrong on like Sorin and Nahiri's duel and not showing any of it. Things like not including Kasmina at all in the novel. Including Mu, even though she's not in the actual like cards. A lot of it felt just a very subpar. There were lots of spelling errors as well. Like, for example, Narset is called an old Oijutai monk. No, it's not even that. It's Oyutai. There's no J. It's an I instead. Like, there are commas missing. It feels very rushed. And the future of Magic the Gathering storyline I'd like to see would be what they've done in the actual set itself. I felt that the narrative was incredibly succinct. The spoiler season that they did was a stroke of genius. Whoever thought to like have a narrative in the preview season of Magic the Gathering is a genius. I love that. The fact that we got a chapter like a day in a week, or like an act in a week, was unbelievable, and I think that was phenomenal. I think maybe like the only thing I would say is having a more in-depth novel for those who are super into like the specific laws of okay, how does this fight specifically pan out? That stuff I'd be fine with, but like I'd want it to be that anyone could pick up a set of Magic the Gathering and know the story exactly as it's told on the cards, know the point A, the point B, and the point C. That's what I'd love to see for the future of Magic the Gathering storytelling, for sure.
And brilliantly kicked off by the best trailer of all time.
Hell yeah!
Endgame yet. I'm actually going to go see it tonight, but I'm in for it. But
you are gonna cry, my dude.
I cried during the Magic trailer like 8 times. Like, it's just, they nailed that so well. They outdid, in my opinion, like, just seeing the Endgame trailers, I'm like, I am more invested emotionally in these characters, because then it was so well done. It made you remember opening your first Jace, and it made you opening your first Lily, and these moments and these times in your life. And I was just like, oh my God, this is the end of some people that we've been, because it's almost a more intimate setting than just watching a movie on the screen. You're physically playing and crafting decks around some of these characters, and the fact that they took some away and they stripped some away was just such a resounding feeling for me during the trailer, of course, and then the spoiler season, like you said, was just on freaking point, right? Like, it was, I think I heard a resounding, like, across the globe applause when we saw, like, Enter the Gods or whatever, and it was just like,
oh yeah,
you know, like, it was just such a cool moment in how they did it. And then the novel came out, and it was like a fart in the wind, and I was like,
yes,
oh.
I very much agree. It's not that it wasn't like, it's still, there were still, I'm assuming you've read the novel.
I went through it.
I consumed it as one might the back of a packet of butter. Like there were still moments which were phenomenal, but I think for me it felt like the trailer for the story and the, like, spoiler season was the movie, and then we got, like, a director's cut, which was the same movie, but, like, all of the soundtrack was composed with a kazoo. It was just like, it just wasn't as good. And, like, there was, as I said, there were still moments that were very deeply moving. Like, and this shouldn't be a spoiler if you've seen the trailer, but, you know, spoilers anyway. Dak Faden's death is genuinely quite a moving piece, a moment. And I was surprised that I actually felt his death, because, you know, you see it in the trailer, it's alluded to all throughout the novel, and then it happens, and you actually feel something when you read it. So, you know, props to the writer where it's earned. But it just, a lot of it was just not particularly well crafted. And I'm actually working on a video at the moment, which is currently standing at over 10,000 words long, the script of it, and is not finished, where I'm breaking down exactly what happens with each character, and also how their story is, like, how them in the book pairs with them on the cards. And then I'm already planning to do, like, a live stream where I just break down the novel chapter by chapter, both from the perspective of someone who plays Magic, someone who likes the story of Magic, but also someone who has studied creative writing, and sort of, like, you know, basic things like grammar. I really don't want to, like, rip into the writer, because I know they probably did their absolute best with their novel, but there are some genuinely glaring issues that I feel like is necessary to be called out, to be honest.
Absolutely. And I think to kind of not rush to the aid of the writer or anything, but to be fair, like you said earlier, where he probably didn't feel like he had creative freedom at all. The one thing that he kind of, I guess, did have was the Dak Faden storyline, because the only thing that we really saw, because, you know, Dak didn't show up on any cards, he wasn't alluded to at all, really. I don't think in any of the flavor text, but it was all just what we saw, that 10 seconds of his death on screen. And then he did make an arc, and he did make it, you know, worth something. So, you know, that was probably like, yeah, the rest of it's for you, but this one's for me. I got to do something that's mine. And I think he did nail that portion of it. So
I'd certainly agree. I feel that him, and again, so, like, spoilers for the actual story, I feel like when Dak comes back from Amonkhet and has decided to stay and actually fight, I wish that he just, like, did one thing to, like, save someone's life, or to make a genuine, impactful difference in the battle before he gets killed. Because for him to make that decision that, no, I am going to be, I think he says in the novel, Gideon goddamn freaking Jura, and then to turn up and then to almost immediately get murdered, like,
yeah,
after like reflecting on the storyline, kind of feels a little bit naff.
Yeah.
But like, you're right. Like he certainly had, the writer certainly had like very little in terms of like wiggle room to work with. But even then, like, I feel that there's a lot of miscommunication or just no communication that happened between the art commissioners and the writer of this novel, because multiple scenes depicted on the cards don't happen. Either like they're not depicted or they just physically cannot happen. I believe like Narset, for example, is in the meditation realm in her art, but never turns up there in the novel. And in fact, only like 4 characters ever do. Sarkhan's Catharsis as well, where he's like igniting the meditation realm. I thought there was going to be like an extra battle that happened there, but there just wasn't. So unless Sarkhan did turn up, and maybe he did like take his frustration out on a bunch of puddles, but like it just didn't happen in the novel. So I think a lack of communication and maybe also a lack of time probably like led the novel to be feeling very rushed and very incoherent.
Sure. What it did show is it showed good bones, and I know we're spending a lot of time talking about this, but I mean, I have Connor here. I mean, this is who else would I talk about this with? Like it showed that WotC has, or good bones to work with. It showed that a resounding yes. Like, we want to see an animated series or even live action.
Yeah.
Animated, I think, and they could do something on Netflix, and it showed that there was a need for it, right? Like, it got all the millions of views. It just went over like gangbusters, and if we get that, finally, right? We there's so many IPs that have gotten undeserved TV shows and movies. There's a freaking Ugly Dolls movie coming out. That's a Target doll. Like, why are we getting this movie?
There's a Talking Tom animated series. Listen, if Castlevania can get a bad anime, Magic can get a bad anime. I actually remember there was so a friend of mine called Hattie, who's going to be designing my new banner, because the channel grew so quickly that suddenly I needed an actual legitimate banner and not like a pile of food with my name on it. She like messaged me after I shared the trailer on social media and said like, oh my god, like when's the Magic the Gathering movie coming out? And I had to break it to her that it's a set of cards, and she was so upset because she was like so invested in Liliana in that moment. So there's definitely like a space for it, and I know that one's been hinted at since 2014, like a movie. But I think a Netflix like animated series, hell yeah, that'd be great. Even like a live action like Shadowhunters-esque series, I'd be down with that. Yeah, why not?
I showed it to the uninitiated. Like, my wife does, like, she despises Magic because she's had to deal with it for so long. but I showed her and my oldest daughter the trailer, and they're like, yeah, we're in for this. Like, this is cool. So it showed that it transcends having to be an entrenched card player to enjoy. So when you have a good story, you have a good story, and they're over 20 years of good storytelling and creative decisions. So let's just stop with the excuses. Let's get the damn movie.
Absolutely.
Who were, if any, were your influences, Magic or not, creatively?
I think Pleasant Kenobi is a massive one. Partly because his humor very much resonated with me. Watching his stuff when I was a wee bit younger, and laughing quite a lot when I was watching it was not only showed me that you can make funny Magic the Gathering content, and not to say that other people can't, but his humor particularly hit me. But also that a British person can be successful and be like not like a pro player, because it's all well and good seeing your country represented at a GP or at a Pro Tour, but when you see just like some guy playing Magic the Gathering on MTGO and getting lots of views and people really enjoying his stuff and you laughing along with them, like that speaks to you. And that, I mean, it's, you can't be what you can't see. And that's very rich, speaking as like a white dude looking at Magic the Gathering content creators, like, oh, finally, someone who speaks to me. You've got 500 people who speak to you. Calm down. But like Pleasant Kenobi is a massive, massive influence. And I grew up watching Aether Hub and the Mana Source as well for my sort of like story intakes. So like I think I just like those people were probably the main big three that spoke to me. But I also really, really loved Jumbo Commander and Game Nights. I still watch Game Nights very, very regularly, just because their content is phenomenal. And Day 9 when he did Spellslingers, and I remember I started a I think the Magic the Gathering Society of my uni stopped being a thing in my second year, and in my third year, I didn't try and set a new one up, but I had a bunch of people who liked Magic and who wanted to learn, and so I thought, I'll just book out a room and we'll play some Magic. And I remember just like we'd watch an episode of Spellslingers before we'd play the game, so that everyone got a refresher. It was very accessible. Day 9 is a phenomenal host, and sort of seeing people like is it Alan Tudyk? Is that his name?
Alan Tudyk, yeah.
Alan Tudyk, yeah. Like seeing people like him and Felicia Day playing this game alongside Day 9, it makes a lot of people feel like this isn't just a game for who they imagine to be a Magic the Gathering player. So like those are my major influences, I'd say.
Absolutely. DJ Jumbo Commander, another one that just has that it. There's a lot of people making deck techs and whatnot, but I just remember watching the very first Jumbo Commander deck tech. I'm like, this is special, and he's just such a national treasure. Like he's just such a wonderful human being. I think I made like my first EDH deck tech, and he was just like so nice about it. He like DM'd me on Twitter. He's just like, I love what you're doing, and just keep it up, and was just there to like offer support and influence. And I'm just like, God, you're just so great. I just want to hug you all the time. But
amazing.
He's just, I couldn't say enough nice things about DJ. He's just a wonderful, wonderful human being.
Absolutely.
What is so your content varies from episode to episode, and that's what is just so special about it. History of goblins to death predictions. What is your process of how you choose your subject matter?
So what of late, what I've come up with is like there are 3 types of videos that I want to make, and I have a list of sort of things I want to talk about. Sometimes it happens, like for example, the death prediction thing was a response to sort of like the rising interest in, people are actually going to die in this set. Who's it going to be? So that was just sort of me putting in my 2 cents. And the fact that sort of that resonated with people so well was very, very gratifying. And also the fact that I think I put it out maybe 3 or 4 days before Magic Arcana put out their stuff, which was like, we get to compare notes. And we both got everything wrong. We both got so many things wrong. In fact, that's entirely what my next video is going to be about, just how wrong I was. So like part of it is responding to the general discourse at the moment, whatever it may be, regarding the Magic the Gathering storyline. The other thing is I've always liked compendium videos. So I didn't mention these Sam at all in my sort of influences, despite the fact he massively is. But his video on frames of Magic, which is like one of those most innocuous of topics that I genuinely would never have thought to consider it. Like you've got old frames, which were naff, white borders, which everyone hates, black borders, and then they refined it a bit. I thought that would be the entire video, but the fact that he not only like manages to portray this as a interesting topic, but manages to like delve into it and show you that no, it is an interesting topic. It's not just being talked about in an interesting way. Stuff like that I absolutely adore, and so that's what I want to do more of in terms of discussing mechanics, but also discussing worlds and races. I know for a fact I want to discuss vampires in the same way that I discussed goblins, and sort of exploring these different depictions of vampires and exploring maybe their cultural roots, because we, perceive vampires as a very sort of like European and Western concept. But of course, you look at the vampires portrayed on the plane of Tarkir, and those have roots in those local cultures' versions of vampires. They may not be called vampires, but they do a very similar thing. So like exploring that element of the lore as well, so like the cultural impact and from where like Wizards of the Coast and their designers draw their inspiration is a big part of the stuff I want to do. And the last thing is I enjoy talking about sort of not necessarily philosophy within Magic the Gathering, but I really enjoy exploring things that you may not consider whilst you're playing the game. For example, I'm at the moment toying with an idea about using the strictly better than sort of trope to talk about moral objectivism. And how, yes, some cards are strictly better than other cards, but there are always contexts in which cards are better, and then exploring those contexts, be them mechanical, be them social, be them subjective, be them personal. So like those are the three main pillars that I like talking about, sort of contemporary discourse, compendium pieces, and then pseudo philosophy, all of which I like talking about with a little bit of tongue in cheek. I think those are when I want to write something or produce something, that's what I go with.
Well, it's working. It's so working. But
thanks very much.
What's your favorite piece that you've done so far?
I think I really want to say it's my comedy piece, because I went to quite sort of an extent to get a good venue, just like create it in a more sort of philosophy tube, ContraPoints-esque kind of high art-ish way. But I genuinely think in terms of how clean cut it was, my goblins, my 33 godless minutes of goblin analysis is probably the best thing, at least from my perspective, that I've made. I'm really, really proud of that video. I'm really happy with it. I don't watch my stuff, but I get people come up to me and they have me sign goblins now. I mean, you yourself called me, King Goblin. So like it has stuck. And I think that's certainly what like kicked off the channel. So I do have a lot of fond feelings towards that piece, even if I still absolutely hate the audio quality. Like audio is the one thing I've been wrestling with throughout my entire, I was about to say Magic the Gathering career. I've been doing this for 3 months, my dude. I do not have a career. I've got a hobby.
And I know you're the exception to the rule, because this isn't the norm, this level of explosion. But
Yes.
what would be your advice now with your level of success, talking to a brand new content creator, trying to make trying to lay their stake in the claim?
I'd say probably my two things would be what's like the advice that I got and internalized, which was it doesn't matter how like quote unquote successful it is. It doesn't matter about views or subscribers or likes or which big other Magic the Gathering person shares it. If you're putting something out there and you're proud of it, keep going. Just like continue to put stuff out there that you are happy with, because even if like 5 or 10 people are watching your videos, at the end of the day, after a year, after 2 years, after 5 years, whatever, you'll be able to look back on that and see yourself grow. And having that scrapbook is something that I was very excited by the prospect of, this idea that like, I'm going to start this channel here, and in a year's time, at the time when I started it, I thought in a year's time, when I have about 500 subscribers, I'll look back on it and go, I did a thing and I can be proud of it. So like, don't worry about people seeing it, because provided you're happy with it and provided the people who care about you like it, that's all. That's honestly all that you need. You don't need to try and make a career out of it. This has absolutely happened accidentally for me. This is not my destiny, my dudes. I was going to be a bartender for like 6 years, write a bad novel, and die. This happened completely out of the blue. So that's
magic for extending your life.
thank you, Mark Rosewater, for making me the eternal lich of your game. Trying to think, there was one other piece of advice. Oh yeah, that was it. Like, if you're going to talk about anything and you do want people to see it, and I think you yourself said this, you have to have something that sets you apart from everybody else. Even if you are just playing Magic the Gathering online, if you're playing Arena, Commander, if you're doing story recaps, you need something that's just going to make you stand out from the crowd. Be it like, his name is not coming to me, but there's this guy who recaps like stock prices of Magic cards and stuff like that. And like my opinion of like the stock market of Magic is its own other conversation to have. But the way that he presents it is like this bourgeois, literally mustache twirling whiskey nursing man in like a waistcoat and a top hat in a oak room with books behind him and money on the table, and he presents it as this character. And I hate the idea of like Magic being a stock market, but I watch his videos because they're amazing. The character. No. It's, oh my god, I cannot remember for the. Hang on, I'm going to quickly do a Jordan Peterson and look him up. What is his goddamn name? Hang on, I think it's something like not Baron. Is it? Not Baron von Grumble. I really, really want to find out who this. Yes, Aristocards. That's his name. / the Swag Show. I've never even heard of it. So he is a. He's got like. Oh, sorry. He just like went into my ear. So he's got like 10K. I'm not subscribed to him for some reason. I'm going to amend that now. But like he begins his videos by going, "Greetings, commoners."
Oh, that's great.
And then like, it's like. He presents this character and he stands out from every other person talking about investing in Magic the Gathering. So I think that like if you're going to do anything and you want people to notice you, just give yourself something to notice. That's the only thing I'd say.
Absolutely. And if I may be so bold to piggyback a little bit, just saying that everyone thinks that it's just like, oh, if I could just get the professor to retweet my stuff or this person or this person. The thing is if that does happen, you better come correct. Like the content better be good. All you have is the platform. Now that you have the platform, you better be one of those people that set yourself apart and do something with your opportunity. Because so many people are just like, oh, this person got there because of, they got shared. It's like, yeah, because the person that's sharing it saw value in sharing it. And so like I said, make sure that what you want being shared is something that is worth consuming. So take the extra time. Go over it once more. Cut off another 5 minutes of your podcast, or kind of clean up that shaky transition just a bit, and you'll get there. Right? It's
absolutely. And never be jealous or compare yourself to other people, because you're like, everyone has such a different lived experience, different opportunities, different trials and tribulations that they've overcome to get where they are. Don't like think, oh, this person isn't making content as good as mine, but they have twice the subscribers. Girl, like you do you, and you will get there. Comparing yourself to other people will just lead you to putting them in front of you.
Absolutely. The last question that we'll get to before we get to Face the D20 is...
No idea what that is, and I'm very excited.
Oh, you're in for a treat. The videos that you do are extremely tongue-in-cheek. Like you said, they're funny, they're lighthearted. But then on social media and whatnot, you are very vocal about your stances about politics, sexuality, social climates. Is it a conscious choice that you make to keep your content and your personal views separate?
I'd say I try to create, at least in the videos that I make, I try and create a light overlap. I'm not intending to create any like piece that speaks to a particular politics. Although there is, like, for example, an analysis that could easily be made as to the Wizards' depiction of revolution, particularly within Kaladesh, by which sort of rebels literally seized the means of production. So like stuff like that, I'm not planning on doing anytime soon, but I do want to foster a community that doesn't tolerate views that I find conflict with the existence of people like me, or people in my audience who may be Black, who may be trans, who may be women. I absolutely abhor people who would attempt to quash protected people. I hate that with a burning passion, and I think that there is no place in the Magic the Gathering community for people like that. And so that's why I put those little like tidbits of politics into my videos, just to sort of weed out the particularly bad actors. That isn't to say, and I said this in my my Q&A, if you disagree with my politics, that doesn't mean that like you should stop watching me. Like if you agree with anyone's politics 100%, you should really question your view on that person. But like it, even for example, and I touched on this in my Q&A, I think I like compared Jacob Rees-Mogg to a Mogg Goblin because they have the same surname. And do you know who Jacob Rees-Mogg is at all? Yeah. So like a right-wing British politician. But like people in the comment section of that video were like, "How dare you offend the Mogg? Go like die in Venezuela, you socialist!" And like if those little jokes are going to stop those people from being in my comment section, not only harassing me, but potentially harassing other people within my comment section. I have a really good, particularly on Patreon, I have a really, really lovely group of trans, non-binary, agender people who I love dearly, and many of whom I met actually at MagicFest London. I would much prefer for like them to be safe and them to feel like they can like watch and comment on my videos without fear of harassment than I would have like 1,000 more subscribers or 10,000 more subscribers. I'm very happy with like not reaching potentially my zenith of people watching me if it means that I can cut off a large amount of fascists and their supporters. And yeah, on social media, I'm a lot more staunchly political, just because whilst I do feel that there is a necessary discussion of politics to be had in any medium, be it artistic or be it economic or be whatever, especially economic, I believe that like certain things are best left to being on social media, where you can articulate your views in a little bit more of a robust manner, rather than like trying to cram in a gag at Boris Johnson's expense whilst you're talking about the representation of camels throughout Magic the Gathering's history, for example. So yeah, I try to separate to a degree, but enough that anyone who watches my content knows roughly where my wind is blowing, if that makes sense.
1,000%. I mean, if you want to see some real visceral shit, then go to the comment section where, for the Pleasant Kenobi Hive Mind, when we don't know, but we kind of know that Trump has a baby dick, so we just said it, and we just got murdered in the comment section.
Oh God. I do love it when the right talk about snowflakes, and then for 1 second you've got a female superhero or a black superhero, or there's a black stormtrooper, and suddenly there's an avalanche.
Where's the metal bikini? My game. What happened to it? Yeah. Oh God.
Oh God. Like the conversation that's hopefully rather than thankfully dying off about like, oh, Wizards are making women less sexy in the card game. It's like, that's probably that is another reason why I started my channel, is because I wanted to be a voice very separate from that sort of branch of Magic the Gathering, and a very vocal opposition to that kind of absolute garbage content. That stuff is just like the most low tier, awful bottom shelf stuff. And I really just don't appreciate that being within the wider discourse of the card game. It's just god awful.
100%. Absolutely. All right, sir. Here we go. Face the D20. So happy that you haven't heard of this because you're in for a treat. I'm going to have you spin the spin down, not a D20, or I don't want to offend any Dungeons and Dragons purists out there.
I do also have a D20.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah. You can pick either one, dealer's choice. But each number on that spin down represents a non-Magic the Gathering related question that Connor will select at random. So, sir, whenever you are ready, King Goblin.
It's like King Ghidorah, but a lot less menacing. All right. Oh, hang on. Roll it on the table. That's a solid 4.
Number 4. What is your favorite place that you've ever visited?
Edinburgh. I went up in 2016 to do a comedy show, and I went back up in 2017 or 18. No, 2017. I think, to do some poetry and also to just have a grand old time up there. And it is one of the most magical cities that I've ever been to. In Fringe time, have you ever heard of the Edinburgh Fringe?
I've heard of, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. But yeah, so like going up to the Edinburgh Fringe. Oh, excellent, fantastic. So yeah, like going up to the Edinburgh Fringe, either as like a performer or just as a viewer, and even going up to Edinburgh outside of Fringe time. I went up during my final year of university to research Edinburgh sewers. Can't remember why, but I have a distinct memory of researching Edinburgh sewers whilst I was up there. But yeah, like even doing that, spending time in the National Scottish Library, the poets up there are phenomenal. The people up there as well who aren't poets are phenomenal, but like slightly less so. And the parks, that was a joke. The parks, I felt I should qualify that. But like the parks and the seaside and the castle, it's just hands down gorgeous. Even like I've been to I taught a seminar at the European Forum Alpbach last summer, and I was in a ski resort there because that was a bit mental. But even then, like the sights in Edinburgh do not even compare. They are off the scale when it comes to like looking at big mountains. No, Edinburgh beats it miles and miles off.
One day, my friend, one day.
Come to Edinburgh.
It's been a lifelong dream to just tour the UK in general.
I do, man. Come south as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, you want to roll again, sir?
Sick. All right. That's an 11.
Number 11, MCU or Star Wars?
Ooh, jeez. Because normally it's like Marvel or DC. That's
right. Well,
that's
fishing with goblin grenades right there.
I think MCU. I've always liked Star Wars, but I feel that like Marvel has now reached a point at which like it could end, but I don't want it to. Whereas Star Wars has yet to reach that point, and I already kind of want it to be over. Like yeah. I'm really happy. I'll be happy if the last movie we get is the next movie. And not to say like I want that movie to fail or anything like that. I want everything to just wrap up and for it to be a 9-movie series. Sure. Whereas Marvel, it's incomparable to any other franchise. And their films are phenomenal. Thor Ragnarok and Spider-Man Homecoming are like 2 of my favorite movies of all time. Endgame, I will not spoil it. You will cry at the least expected moments. And yeah, I think it's got to be Marvel, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. All right, one more roll, sir. Maybe 2. I might be lying. We'll see.
Also, just before I roll, this is the 3D printed out logo that Max Jungle Fiver printed out. which is shout out to him because this is absolutely gorgeous and I love this so much.
That is awesome. Actually, the day that this is filmed, that we're filming this, Max will be on our live show tonight, 10th Street Hooligans. So
yes,
tune in the path to that.
I'll jump in. It depends on what time my partner gets home, but I'll jump on in and say hello. Right. Okay. 5.
Number 5, a hidden talent. Not a lot of people know about you.
I know the Element song off by heart. I think.
Oh my god!
It's been many years since I've done it, and I am 3/4 of the way through a King Goblin, but I think I can remember the Element song off by heart.
All right, prove it.
There's antimony, arsenic, aluminium, selenium, and hydrogen and oxygen, and nitrogen and rhenium, and nickel, neodymium, neptunium, germanium, and iron, americium, ruthenium, uranium, and yttrium, ytterbium, actinium, rubinium, and boron, gadolinium, niobium, iridium, and strontium, and silicon, and silver, and samarium, and vistaprone, lithium, beryllium, and barium. There's oh no, it's gone. It's gone. I learnt that in secondary school for like my year 8 talent contest, and it's kind of stuck in my head, but only the first couple.
I barely know the date of the week. That was incredible. Oh my god.
I do if I like a song, I will memorize it. Like I've got a bunch of Aesop Rock lyrics and bars memorized. I think I know. Oh, do you know you love Aesop Rock?
Yeah, Gravedigger. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yes, my dude. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes. You mentioned this earlier. Good lord.
Right? We could have been talking. This could have been a whole different podcast.
Oh, absolutely. Good. Oh god, I'm on a podcast. I did it. I'm on a podcast.
Was that a bucket list?
I think so. A good podcast was on my bucket list, and now it's crossed off because I've
reached that goal.
oh no, I meant like I've been on podcasts before, but they've been like bad ones that like me and my friends. You know when you go like, oh, we should just do a podcast and improvise, those kind of podcasts. So I'm finally on a good podcast. I'm very happy.
No one else saw the intro debacle, so we'll keep it at that.
Who knows? There may be bloopers.
There might be bloopers. All right. You survive. I mean, there's no follow-up question to you going through the Elements song. That was just absolutely incredible. So
the first verse, at least.
Totally. You survive. Face the D20, Connor. How do you feel?
Oh, you know what? Feel like a changed man. I honestly do. I'm gonna go donate my kidneys to a child I've never met before. I feel reborn.
That's very bizarre.
Glad to be.
Any upcoming projects you could spoiler tease for the audience, sir, before I let you go?
Well, I think the alcohol has caused me to spoil and tease a bunch already. I mean, I've got my my next video, which is currently, as I said, 10k words and not finished. I'm gonna probably finish that slightly tipsy later on today. I'm trying to think of. Oh, I do have one thing, which I don't know when it's going to happen. It might happen before this comes out. But one of my patrons is actually making a playmat with the logo on it, just because like they want to. But they are making it with, I believe, and I'm sure they'll correct me if I'm wrong, but they're making it with either sort of black and white background or the gay pride background or the trans flag background. And there's going to be a poll that they're going to put out there. That I'm going to try and publicize as best I can. And hopefully they will be available to purchase from his store. They're not sort of my products that I'm poaching. They're very much his that he's doing because he wants to. And I believe he said that a certain amount of the proceeds are going to go to a charity, either in aid of sort of like trans youth, or just sort of general LGBTQ plus charities. So that's something that I'd like to shout out if at all possible.
Oh, fantastic! Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for spoiling that here. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get the poll out at some point soon. I'll let him know that I've just done this stream once it's done.
Yeah, absolutely. Connor Macleod, Standup Poet. Where can everyone find you, sir?
You can find me on YouTube at Spice8Rack. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Standup Poet, and also Twitter at Spice8Rack. Standup Poet is more for my poetry and personal stuff, and Spice8Rack is more for my also personal stuff, but YouTube stuff. So if you want to follow both, give both a follow.
Perfect. If you want to follow me, I don't know why you would, but you can on Twitter at
Listen,
OrzovDone.
you.
You can also directly support the show or anything else we got going on here at They Said We Said on Patreon. Become a patron and support all the cool things that we have going on over here. You could also head on over to cardsphere.com because they're just simply the best place to buy, sell, and trade your paper Magic the Gathering cards online. You could also head on over to inkedgaming.com, enter promo code HiveMindMTG to receive 10% off your purchase. So, geez, I'm just so happy that you've planeswalked over all the way from England, my friend. I think there's just one thing left to do. So, I just at first I was afraid, I was petrified. I figured I could never live without you by my side. But then I spent so many nights just thinking how you did me wrong. I grew strong, but I knew how to get along.
And so you're back from outer space. I just walked in to find you here with that sad look upon your face. I should have changed that stupid lock. I should have made you leave your key if I'd have known for just 1 second you'd be back to bother me. Oh, now go, walk out the door, just turn around now, 'cause you're not welcome anymore. Weren't you the one who tried to hurt me with goodbye? Did you think I'd crumble? And did you think I'd lay down and die? Oh, no.
I will survive. Oh, as long as I know how to love, I know I'll be alive. I've got all my life to live. I got all my love to give. I'll survive. I'll survive. I'll survive. Connor Macleod, the stand-up poet. Spice8Rack, go subscribe, do all the YouTube things. Thank you so much for joining us. Till next time, Planeswalkers, I'll see you all in the multiverse.
Stay spicy.